Good morning, Max. Oh, yeah. Good morning, sweeties. You don't seem like your usual sparkling self today. I'm always like this before I go in front of an audience. I'm working up to it. Key. Don't get nervous, Maxie. Here, have a glass of milk. Regina. How fabulous! My sweetie pie princess. You came to watch my performance today. Of course I did. Mo told me that I should come and watch this. Mo said that? So, what kind of performance will you put on today? Let me guess, you'll fly at the end? It's not that kind of show. Isn't that right, my sweeties? Huh? I think my sweetie pie princess doesn't... Yeah, she doesn't seem to realize what's going on, or even where she is. Well, Max, it looks like it's time to raise the curtain. I'll see you later. Today I'm just a member of the audience. Fabulous. Enjoy yourself out there. Good luck, Max. You're the best. Regina's different, don't you think, Nick? Top of the morning to you. Hey everybody, let's get ready to get stuck in legal limbo. How low can you go? Well, top of the morning to you, Governor. Top of the morning. That's the ticket. Attacking the day starts with energy in the morning. The early bird gets the worm, but then again, worms lack higher brain function. Here, Max, I brought you a present. Have some milk. Oh my, thanks. So how are you today, right? Well, I've got the feeling that today I'm gonna face off against a real culprit. Maybe an acro. Eh? You think he did it? Be careful. He's used to putting his life on the line. Literally. He's got guts to spare. If all I've got to worry about are how thin I am. If all I've got to worry about is how thin the tightrope is, I'm used to it already. This means I won't be able to press him like I can other witnesses. What are you gonna do then, Nick? I guess today we'll just have to do without our usual psychological warfare. Today we rely on evidence. It's the only way we'll get past Acro and to the truth. You're right, but this is gonna be tough. Anyway, I want you to make sure that Regina sees it all today. It's important. And she'll finally have to deal with the reality of what happened to her father. He wants us to make sure Regina watches. Yeah, that's why I brought her here, to court, today. What's that supposed to mean? She needs to know that when people die, they don't just become stars. Maybe an old-fashioned clown, but I don't believe in people becoming stars. There is no afterlife, you just die. Thank you, clown. Court now in session for the trial of Maximilian Galactica. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. The defense is ready, Your Honor. Very well, Miss Von Karma, you may proceed with your case. The prosecution would like to revise its previous theory of events. What's the meaning of this? We have discovered a new witness, or shall I say a new eyewitness. One that saw Maximilian Galactica fly off from the scene of the crime. Order. I had a feeling something like this would come up. Due to this revision, we are not prepared to explain how the defendant flew that night. An explanation the prosecution will present if the need so arises. In fact, my detective stayed up all night creating a mock-up of the scene on my orders. Poor gumshoe. Very well, please call your witness to the stand. Time to get to work. Or should I say, time to walk the courtroom tightrope. Nah, get to work works. Why are there so many birds in the courtroom? Name and occupation. Ken Dingley. Sorry. Can't help it. But everyone calls me Acro. I'm employed as an acrobat at the very big circus. Where were you the night of the crime? I was in my room that night. If you look at the map, you will see the witness's room is near the crime scene. My room is on the 3rd floor. The crime scene is below my window. The night of the crime, the witness saw something quite shocking. Would you tell us what you witnessed? Okay. It was just after 10 PM and I was resting in my bed. Around that time, I heard a huge thump outside from outside the window. Then a few moments later, I saw someone flying right by my window. It was Max Galactica. I only saw him from behind, but that's who it looked like. To be honest, when I saw that, I thought I was dreaming. The witness's testimony matches up exactly with that of the clown. If that is the case, there is very little the prosecution need add. All that's left is to explain how the defendant disappeared into the night sky that night. Before we get that far, I'd like to cross-examine the witness. A foolish choice by a foolish fool who wishes to feel the foolish sadness of a sad fool. A man must know the proper timing for things, Mr. Phoenix, right? Just like your old friend, Mr. Miles Edgeworth did. Mr. Rat, do you have a problem with the witness's testimony? In the words of Miss Von Karma, may I quote yesterday's proceedings? There's no way that actually happened. Very well, you may proceed with your cross-examination. Just after 10, resting in bed. You said that you were resting in bed? One would let us assume that you turned the lights off in your room, correct? That's correct. But there are safety lights around the outside of the lodging house. It's so bright, sometimes it can make it hard to sleep. If that's the case, wouldn't it be a good idea to close some curtains? What the fuck was that? I never really thought of that. I guess that means I'm off to buy some curtains. Sometimes I do make myself useful in these chambers. Ow. The witness will proceed with his testimony. Oh. Your room is on the 3rd floor, right? Yes. And you said you were resting in bed? That is correct. But you were still able to hear a sound from outside? I was indeed. Yep, this is a thing. Maybe something was contradictory in what he said just now. Something, I guess. I can take a hit. There's a huge contradiction with the testimony that was just given. If there's a contradiction, then prove it with evidence. She's right. Let's see some evidence. You have any evidence to support your claim of a contradiction? I think we're claiming that... Fuck, what was it? Thinking... If I was paying attention, this would be different, but I wasn't. I can't back out now. What do we got? The entire thing is he's saying that it looked like it was Max, right? The only thing I can think of... The hat was located on the ground, right? Yeah. Big ass thunk, but that's the box. Box makes sense. I don't know why there's pepper in there yet. Would have been nice if I realized what one I pressed him on. Anything? Look at this hat. It's a hat. Because the thing ended up losing the hat, right? What one was that? I'll never know. Huge thump. Because the hat ended up on the ground. So that would make it to where it didn't look like it was him. Floating, right? Unless, of course, the hat fell off afterward, but it landing perfectly there seems a little weird. So how do we do? Saw someone flying right by the window. Sure it was a human being, could have been a mannequin. A large action figure. A monkey. Setting aside the possibility of a mannequin and action figure is possible. You have no need to mince words with Mr. Phoenix, right? Testify to the truth and only the truth, as though we were with you that night. I believe it was a human. Damn, I just drink for the testimony. Wonder if his statement jives with the facts. Leave it alone. What's the matter, Mr. Rat? Nothing. Until I can find a clear contradiction, I should tread lightly. Yeah, there's just evidence things on every statement. It was Max Galactica, I only saw him from behind. The light in your room was turned off then, right? That's true. I was going to bed after all. So with the lights off, you were still able to clearly see a human fly by your window? The safety lights lit things up enough for me to see. But honestly, there was only enough light for me to see the silhouette outside my window. It was the person's back, so I couldn't see the white roses on the front. Did you see any of the other symbols? I clearly saw the silk hat, as well as the cloak wrapped around his body. I'm convinced that the person I saw was Max Galactica. The more I press him, the less results I can get. He shouldn't have his hat. Something, it fell at some point in time. That's all I have. There's a contradiction. Where is it? What's the evidence? What's the evidence? What's the evidence? It's this stupid fucking hat. You claim to have seen the exact same thing Mo saw that night. Do you stand by that? What do you mean? The silk hat. What about it? I saw it on his head as he flew by the window. Well, you should have tried looking down out of your window that night. That would have been quite difficult considering the state I'm in. Just looking outside of the window was a tough enough challenge for me. It's a shame, because you would have noticed the silk hat found on the scene. That's the ringmaster's hat, right? Afraid not. No matter how you look at it, this is Max's hat. Where are you going with this, Mr. Rat? Are you saying that Max has two hats? No, this is handmade, one-of-a-kind model made only for Maximilian Galactica. Which means Acro. But you've been fibbing on the stand. Or dirt. As always, it looks like someone just had to open their mouth before thinking. You okay, Nick? Well, I opened my mouth and now I have to back it up. How about it, Mr. Rat? What would cause this witness to commit perjury in the court today? 'Cause he's the one what did it. Your Honor, on this occasion the defense accuses Acro himself. On this occasion? Accuses Acro? What in the world are you accusing him of? Obviously we accuse him of the murder of Mr. Russell Berry. Mr. Rat, are you serious? Deadly, Your Honor. I think your trips to the circus have served you well. You seem to have learned how to try and grab at an audience's heart and minds. Your Honor, don't allow yourself to be swayed by theatrics. Trying to wow the crowd of smoke and mirrors is the oldest bluff in the books. Really? If you don't believe me, just look at the witness. He's got birds. He's calm enough for it almost to be scary. He's pecking me. He stayed rather calm and collected. Mr. Dingling, do you have any response to the defense's accusation? I don't really need to say a thing, do I? What do you mean? Everyone take a good look at me. I can't even stand up by myself, let alone leave the lodging house. That's true. I understand that Mr. Wright's trying to help his client. But to do this by accusing me of a murder of all things. See, even a sliver of common sense makes it clear the accusation is ludicrous. She is right. Way to pick on the disabled, you heartless, cruel man. Phoenix is appropriate. See that, Mr. Phoenix, right? If you're trying to drum up support from the peanut gallery, that is how you do it. I think that is enough of this little game. I've got the doctor's note to confirm that Acker was unable to stand under his own power. Maybe the defense is planning on making a claim to counter this as well? I can hear the defense now. Acker had an accomplice. What do you say about this, Mr. Rat? Did Acro have an accomplice? Do we count the monkey? Let's say no. No? Now then, this must be when you hear the name of the mystery accomplice. Not this time, Von Karma. That? You're not gonna sucker me into this one. What are you blabbering about, Mr. Rat? There was no accomplice. Acro planned and committed this murder all by himself. Order. What are you getting at? Way to keep them on their toes, Nick. Now I'm gonna have to prove how it all fits together. I have to show Acro how Acro murdered Russell Berry. Can you do it, Nick? Can you really do that? I know what I can't do, and I cannot stop. If I stop attacking, I'm doomed. Alright, then let's do it. Mr. Phoenix, right? If this witness is the killer, then his eyewitness account is all lies, right? Mr. Rat, I'd like you to clear something up for me. When the crime was committed, exactly where was Mr. Dingling? Right there. And here the entire time. 3rd floor, his room. That's Acro's room. Pretty simple, eh? Acro wasn't able to leave the lodging house by himself. In that case, there can be only one correct answer. Acro didn't leave his room to kill the ringmaster. What? Are you nuts? What say you, Mr. Dingling? Birds. It's an interesting theory. That's it. Considering that what you propose is impossible, yes, that is it. Mr. Rat. Yes, Your Honor. As the witness has stated, your assertion is impossible. As he is in a wheelchair, there is no way you could go to the scene or be the killer. You've got a point. It seems you've forgotten once again, Mr. Phoenix, right? The defendant was clearly spotted at the scene of the crime. That's true. No, his cloak and hat were. Mo said he saw Max, didn't he? Then he flew away. But Maya, it's still impossible for humans to fly. Do you mind if I ask a question, Mr. Wright? What is it? I understand some of your logic. However, how did you think that I killed him? If I can't leave my room, I obviously couldn't wear Max's costume. How did he do it? That's the next course of this legal buffet. Be careful, Nick, if you mess up here. He's right, I cannot mess up here, I gotta get this on some serious thought. I'm sure that he killed the ringmaster, and he did it while he was in his room, no doubt about it. Time to enlighten us as to how Mr. Dingling committed the crime, Mr. Wright. We've got something. Going to present some evidence. So what did Mr. Dingling use to commit the crime of murder against Russell Berry? Oh yeah, there's a bust. A bust that has its own hat. You even have Max's face. And you could probably put a cloak on that. If you needed to. So, hold on. I'm trying to game this out. Because if I'm thinking that maybe the bust had a cloak on it, then they could raise and lower that. But the ringmaster was wearing the proper cloak at the time, right? But then why isn't he still wearing the cloak there, when he's dead? But the bust has gone missing. And it would always have the hat on. Right? So, drop the bust on it, right? That or the box, but the box is underneath him and that gets weird. I don't know. Shot in the dark. What's that, a picture? Yes, the problem is with the item that's shown in the picture. The bust? It's a big bust, and because of its life size, it's also very, very heavy. Heavy. Heavy enough to guarantee a certain death. Especially if it was dropped from a third-story window. This is how he was able to kill the Ringmaster. With the force of gravity and Maximilian Galactica's ample bust. Order. So you're saying the bust fell onto the Ringmaster? A rather simple crime. Even if you were stuck in a wheelchair, it would be incredibly easy to commit. How could you possibly feel a wheelchair with something so heavy? It is impossible. Well, Acro is an acrobat. He should have more than enough upper body strength to carry something like the bust. Mr. Dangling, how are you responding to these charges? Well, Acro's at a loss for words. He should be. He knows I'm getting close to the truth. Well, Acro, I'd watch what I say if I were you, Mr. Phoenix, right? What? Your Honor, the physical health of the witness is material to this case. I demand that we get proper testimony from the witness himself. Testimony, you say? On Karma, she's just using this testimony as a route to stall for time. There's absolutely no need for such testimony. The defense has its version of the murder. The prosecution has the right to respond. I tend to agree with that. The defense's objection is overruled. Why can't he see things my way once in a while? Mr. Dingling, I'm sorry, but we need you to testify about your physical condition. If you have any doubts about your ability to testify, we can request expert testimony. The witness will have no problems. However, let's all be respectful towards him. Thank you. That woman's gonna sink to any low to win. That woman will sink to any low to win a case. Physical state. I suppose I could have listed something the size of that bust. I have a strong upper body from working as an acrobat, and only my legs were injured. However, lifting it and looking out of the window would have been impossible. There's no way I could have exerted that kind of force on my lower body. That makes it impossible for me to have known the location of the Ringmaster's head. Thus it would be unrealistic for me to drop the bust on him, don't you think? I have no doubts in regards to this witness's testimony. It was impossible for him to lift the bust or stick himself out far enough to look. Not to mention that he could not have known the location of the Ringmaster's head. A single false step would have led to even more severe injuries. That's what I was thinking. What's your opinion on the matter, Mr. Rat? I'd still like to proceed with my cross-examination. He's simply stalling. It is shameful, really. I cannot let her get to me. I suppose I could lift something the size of that bust. Press it. Have you ever lifted up the bust before? No, I've never actually lifted it up with my own two hands. But I should get to it, don't you think? I can't let money outdo me on this. money. The monkey has lifted Maskus's bust before? He stole it and took it up to the room. Please continue with your testimony, Mr. Dingling. Strong upper body. So what have you been doing to keep in shape? Well, honestly, I've given up on training. I don't have any plans to return to the trapeze or the tightrope. You don't say. But no offense, I'm not worried about losing to you in a race or anything. Neither am I, Mr. Phoenix, right? I wouldn't lose either, Slowpoke. Nick. Why did the discussion turn toward me all of a sudden? I suppose you could say that I'm stronger than the average bear. However, blah blah blah. And why is that? Because if I were to do that, I'd end up falling out the window. I still haven't gotten much feeling back on my legs yet. So you couldn't have thrown that bust out of the window. How long do you think your recovery is gonna take? You have to remember that my nerves are severely damaged. I'm currently undergoing some extremely intensive rehabilitation. But it's still going to take a while before I'm back to 100%. Let me remind you of another very important point. If the witness was carrying the bust, he would not have been able to see out below the window. Impossible. Why do you say it would be impossible? Allow me to explain. You accept that if I was carrying the bust, I couldn't see below the window. Thus, there's no way that I would know the location of the ringmaster's head. I suppose you got a point. Hey, Nick, huh? What if you turn things around? Maybe if you think it's sorta like this. If you knew the location of the ringmaster's head, then you could drop the bust. That does make sense, if I could prove it. That Acro knew the locations of the ringmaster's head without looking down. Birds. How do we prove that, though? Guess it'd be unrealistic for me to drop a bust on him, don't you think? If all you had to do was drop it, it wouldn't have been a problem at all. If all I had to do was drop it, you're right, I could have done that. However, there's no way that I could land a direct hit on his head. Though that kinda makes your theory a bit pointless, doesn't it, Mr. Rat? Acro's strong enough to lift it up. The main problem is how he could have aimed for the ringmaster's head. I wonder if he used some kind of tool to aim for it. That's the ticket, Nick. Show him what you got. Gotta be careful, I have to find something that fits perfectly with the case. Don't remember us finding any sort of tool. Maybe we overlooked something? It had something to do with here. Impossible to have known the location of his head. It was hunched over the box. Don't know why there was pepper in it, but the box was already down there, right? And if we're saying he has some method of raising and lowering things, then he could have just lowered it to there. I don't know how he would make it to where he was looking at that time, or why they would need the bust at all if they just could throw the damn box at him. But this was down there. So I'm going to have to guess this. Acro, you didn't really need to lean out the window, did you? What are you driving at, Mr. Wright? You already knew ahead of time where the ringmaster's head was gonna be. Quite precisely, I may add. Your silly hinting at things is pointless, Mr. Phoenix, right? Enough stalling, how about you show us some evidence? I did such a good job. Yes, hurry up and explain things, Mr. Rat. Maybe you should take a look at this. The key point here is the box. The same box that the victim was found hunched over. The same box that the victim was found hunched over? The same. The question is, who placed the wooden box here? Who? when Ben and company saw the ringmaster, they didn't see him holding the box. Which means that this box is already placed at the scene of the crime. I have to admit that your theory does make sense. The moment that the bust came falling down was exactly the same moment that the ringmaster lifted up the box. Which means that the answer to all these questions is now crystal clear. You mean... If the bust were to fall upon the point marked out by the box, then there would be no way that it could miss the head of the victim. No. Or dirt. This is unbelievable. Finally, some of these loose ends are starting to tie themselves up. Now I just gotta keep going. And there's only way to go from here, forward. The next question I have is who placed that box at the scene? Mr. Dingling, of course. He connected it to a rope and then all I had to do was lower it down. Ow. Allow me to whip some sense into you. Mr. Phoenix, right? Smack. The ringmaster's head could have been anywhere when he lifted the box. That's why the box is so specially made. Specially made? Indeed. It had the most peculiar feature. It's incredibly heavy for some reason. The box is a remarkable weight. And he doesn't know to lift with his knees, apparently. Wait? According to the court record, it weighs 20 pounds. Just to lift it up, you would have required... Oh, I see. One would have to squat down and lift it up with their body, wouldn't you say? That's exactly what I was trying to point out. The box is also very large. And the box also has carrying handles on either side, doesn't it? That's correct. To lift it up, you'd have to squat down. Which means, no matter who you are, your head would be in approximately the same place. Fool. I mean, not really. Unless if they're lifting with their back, then they'd be like bent over it like the ringmaster was. But if they were just squatting in front of it, then they're squatting in front of it. And then they're gonna lift it up. There's two different head locations here. That's just how it works. He's got birds. I've heard what you've had to say. I must admit, I'm shocked at your imaginative skills. Did you do it? Did you place the box in the plaza? Mr. Wright may have a vivid imagination, but I could never have done what he's proposing. What? Mr. Wright, do you recall the original location of Max's bust? Yeah? I remember, on top of the table in the cafeteria. Then what happened to it? I'd like you to remember one important fact, Mr. Wright. I could not possibly leave the lodge by myself. That means... You understand what I mean, don't you? I may very well have been able to drop the bust from my room. However, how would I have gotten the bust from the cafeteria to my room? The monkey that you've said lifted it. You see, Mr. Phoenix Wright explains that. Don't forget, you said there was no accomplice. Does the monkey not count? The monkey doesn't count. They're special. Tell us how the witness would have carried the bust from the cafeteria. I am playing the monkey card. Alright, Mr. Wright, let's hear your explanation. How did the witness get the bust from the cafeteria back to his room? This stupid monkey. A monkey? Everyone knows money. He loves shiny objects of any size. Oh, like when he stole the ventriloquist ring. So, are you saying the witness had a monkey steal the bust? Of course he didn't order the monkey to steal it. The monkey stole it on his own, and then brought it back home. Home. Money lives in Acro's room. Acro's room? But the bust was bronze, wasn't it? Bronze isn't all that shiny. Maybe you should put the whip down sometime and read the court record. Ma, those are some very nice cards he's holding. Yeah, and they're made of platinum, which is very shiny. That's a lot of platinum. Acro. Money's a strong monkey, right? It'd be easy for him to bring the bust back to your room. If he wasn't able to handle that himself, I'd be on the market for a new roommate. Order. I said order, Miss Von Karma. Where is the bust in question at the moment? I don't know. They're searching for it as we speak. This is a rather strange turn of events. But let's say that the monkey has not stolen the bust. What would have happened then? Well, in that event, something else would have been used as the murder weapon. Wait. Then you mean this bust was the murder weapon purely by accident? Yeah, it's possible. Maybe Acro saw Money's mountain of stolen goods and thought to use one of them. Anyway, I think we've more than proven one critical fact. Namely that it was entirely possible that Acro is the murderer. Moron! Mr. Rat's argument was so circular I'm still a bit dizzy, however. His argument does hold water. There's no denying that. Don't seem so flamboozled, especially by this fraud of an attorney. Fraud? You've forgotten about the absolute most important thing, Mr. Phoenix, right? And what's that? You should know. You forgot that your fraud of a magical client was spotted at the scene of the crime. There is no reason to doubt the clown's testimony. That's true. How do you respond to that, Mr. Rat? Nick, don't let her beat you now. I won't. This is my chance for this to turn the trial around. When the murder occurred, there were two people at the scene of the crime. Well, after he got donked and died, anyway. One was the victim, Russell Berry, and the other was the murderer himself. Answer this and only this, Mr. Phoenix, right? Who was the murderer the clown saw? I think he saw the bust. He saw Max's back. I asked who was the other person Mo saw on the scene. That evidence has nothing to do with the question. Au contraire, mon frère. It does indeed have something to do with the question. Mo said that he saw Max's silhouette. But he didn't actually see the man himself. It wasn't a human being he saw. How's that possible? It's simple, really. What Mo actually saw that night was Max's bust. What are you talking about? Have you tried using your brain at all in this case? The silhouette he saw was wearing a cloak. There's no reason why you couldn't attach a cloak to the bust. It'd be easy to hang on one of the cards. Idiot, who in their right mind would put a cloak on a bust? It doesn't matter who put it on the bust. Just a minute now, Mr. Rat. Who put the cloak on the bust? That question is of the utmost importance to this case, don't you agree? Got me. So let's have it, Mr. Rat. Who put the cloak on the bust? They were outside, they were up top. Russell was wearing it, right? Fuck it. Fool, him? You're saying it was a victim? Russell Berry. Yeah. The victim himself placed the cloak on the bust. Placed the cloak isn't really the right way of putting it. It balked and got caught. I get that. So that I would technically mean Acro there, putting it on it there, but fuck it. We're doing it this way. Then what would be the right way of putting it, Mr. Rat? R's and W's and R's and W's. Explain yourself. Nick, do you really have a handle on all this? I'm fine, Maya. I'm putting all the pieces together. There's really only one picture I can paint anyway. Alright, so you want to know what happened that night. Let's step back in time. Acro used a rope to lower the box onto the seat. Then he attached that rope to the bust. Dangled the bust out of his bedroom window directly above the wooden box. At the same time, the ringmaster told Max to wait in his room and went to the scene. Of course, at that time the ringmaster was wearing Max's costume. Perhaps he didn't want anyone to recognize him that night. But just as he feared, he was spotted at the entrance of the lodging house by none other than a ventriloquist and his puppet, Ben and Trilo. When the ringmaster arrived at the scene, He bent over to lift the wooden box. And that's when Acro took his chance and released the rope. Now this is when the magic happened. At the very instant that the bust hit the victim, Weep. It's not the right angle at all, but it's what has to have happened, I guess. You wait just a second there, Mr. Phoenix Wright. As much as you try, as much as you scheme, that just isn't true, it can't be. It's still a little early to be getting so upset, Miss Von Karma. The circus isn't over yet. What? The impact of the bust on the victim threw the cloak up, which snagged onto the bust. The impact also caused a sound a certain witness heard, prompting him to take a look. Ignore the fact that they're usually attached with a clasp in the front around the chest, making such a... from bent over, flying forward, up and over. Ah, boy. The witness was, of course, Lawrence Moe Curls, the clown. When Moe looked out his window, the cloak had already snagged onto the bust. Now, having completed the crime, Acro naturally went about pulling up the murder weapon. Of course, he had no idea that Moe saw the bust being raised with the cloak dangling on it. Primarily because in his wheelchair he couldn't see out of his window. He just kept pulling the bust up. And that is how the magical murderer disappearing into the sky came to be. So you see, the only person who could have pulled this off is the one person who was able to drop the murder weapon from above the crime scene. Acro. It could only have been you. Bird. Acro's been playing mind games with all of us. He sure has. But he's come to the end of his rope now. So? What now? You've graced us with a rather long-winded tale. But do you have any evidence to prove that your fairy tale is true? Evidence? In this court, only two things matter. The power of evidence and the power of my whip. Don't forget the power of my gavel. Mr. Rat, the prosecution brings up a good point. Can we see some evidence? Nick, they say they want evidence. I just explained how there can only be one possible murder method. But there's still something unusual about Moe's eyewitness account. Unusual? A contradiction, actually. Alright, use that and get out of this jam. That's enough talking amongst yourselves. Proceed, Mr. Rat. Present some evidence. Hard proof that you have unraveled the trick to the magic case. The hat that fell down. The problem is Max's three symbols. You know, hat, cloak, white roses. Those symbols were a problem numerous times during yesterday's proceedings. Yesterday there were two contradictions in Moe's testimony. The steel cat was one, the white roses was the other. But the theory I just presented explains all those contradictions. You fools, do you ever shut up? Max's silk hat was found at the scene of the crime. However, remember what Moe said yesterday. He testified the criminal he saw fleeing the scene was wearing a hat. There's only one explanation for that. The silk hat that he saw was the bust's. Makes sense, if you look at it that way, then he did see the silk hat, sorta. Fine, you've got fun, but what about the other contradiction? The other contradiction? Remember what the ventriloquist said in court. He said he witnessed white roses on Max's chest that night. But the clown's testimony doesn't match. The clown said that there were no white roses. White roses. White roses are... I'd like to see you try and explain that one away. Can you do it, Nick? Of course! I can explain all of it. What was that? Please recall the instant when the cloak snagged onto the bust. If the cloak snagged onto the bust, what happened to the white roses? Do you get it yet? If the cloak got snagged onto the front of the bust, it means that the white roses would end up on the back of the bust. Which explains why Mo didn't see them. The white roses weren't visible because they were on the back side of the bust. Order. This is quite the shocking state of affairs. Mr. Wright's theory still sounds a bit absurd to me. However, let's just keep going down this road for a while and see where it leads. Let's do it, Nick. Maybe Von Karma will finally throw in the towel. Well, so much for that theory. Mr. Wright, do you mind? What is it? You took the time to research our circus, didn't you? Well, yeah, I did. Is there something making you think I didn't? If you did, then maybe you'll understand why I think you're off track. Why is that? Motive? This witness feels an incredible debt of gratitude towards the ringmaster. Anyone with any relation to the circus is well aware of this. Well, he didn't think it was the ringmaster. Thought it was his daughter. Thus, there is absolutely no way someone like this would kill the ringmaster. Your Honor, I'd like you to hear Akro's story. Learn about his relationship with the ringmaster, and his life up until now. What do we do? There's no doubting that Akro deeply respected the ringmaster. Akro's motive. It seems that this case isn't over yet. Very well. However, I feel this is a good place to take a break. I'll listen to the rest of Mr. Dingling's testimony after recess. This court will now take a 10-minute recess. To be continued. Fair enough. And to keep things short, I'll go ahead and make a cut here. Woohoo! Extra breaks. Whip. I can't ever find the buttons.